Welcome to Lyme Time. I'm Allie from the Tick Chicks. We are all more than Lyme disease and chronic illness, and together we stand with you to overcome and rise. I'll bring you closer to the experts in cutting-edge treatments and even a few unexpected ways of healing. I'll ask the questions you want answers to regarding Lyme disease and successful ways of getting you closer to 100%. We are in this together and will not be defined by Lyme.
Welcome back to Lyme Time, everyone. I hope that you're patting yourself on the back a little bit right now, just saying thank you to yourself for taking time out during your busy, busy days and your healing process in order to expand yourself a little bit more, expand what you know about what you think healing looks like and feels like, and just able to sort of take what you want and leave the rest. I'm very excited today because I have a very special guest. Her name is Danielle Pashko. And we're going to be talking a little bit about movement and energy movement and how that could possibly help you heal Lyme disease and tick-borne illness. Danielle is a functional nutritionist and certified health coach with over 20 years of experience specializing in immune health, weight loss, digestive health, children's nutrition, women's health, and complex chronic illness. She's also the author of Weight Loss Mistakes Even Healthy Chicks Make and Smile at Your Challenges. Her personal health journey includes overcoming thyroid cancer, Lyme disease, and long COVID. These experiences have deepened her commitment to holistic healing and inspired her to assist others facing similar challenges. Despite her extensive background in holistic health, she found herself struggling to fully recover from a resurgence of Lyme and neurological issues after COVID. And I know so many of you out there can relate to things triggering dormant Lyme disease. It was through the guidance of her martial arts teacher that she discovered the transformative power of Tai Chi and Qigong. These ancient practices helped her rebuild strength, balance, brain function, and overall vitality in ways that traditional healing modalities had not. Now, through her platform, soulhakker.com, she shares these powerful techniques with the world, helping others regulate their nervous systems, restore energy, and heal from chronic conditions. Danielle has been a keynote speaker and has been featured in numerous media outlets, including the New York Post, Fox and Friends, New York One News, Pix 111, New York News, ABC News, CBS News, The Vitamin Shop, Chase Bank, USA Today, Reader's Digest, 124 News, and much more. While she's not a martial arts instructor, she is a dedicated student committed to guiding others on their healing journey alongside expert teachers. Through her retreats, coaching, and educational content, Danielle bridges the gap between functional nutrition and ancient healing arts, offering a unique and effective path to strength and resilience. Welcome to Lyme Time, Danielle. We're so happy to have you here today.
Thank you for having me.
Just in reading through all of your experiences and your bio and how you've really turned this space and your experience into a whole community for all of us to tap into to really redesign our way of thinking about chronic illness. I wanted to start with the beginning with you and just talk a little bit more about your journey and how you came to the wellness world.
Sure. I started in this world when I was 18. I grew up with a very sick mother that had breast cancer, and unfortunately, she didn't make it. But during the earlier years in her life, to try to work on her healing, she was very into meditation and visualization and a macrobiotic diet and homeopathic remedies. And unfortunately, she passed away when she was 38 and I was 13. But she left me these books on all these different books on healing, Many Lives, Many Masters, also Anatomy of the Spirit. You Can Heal from Louise Hay using affirmations. And I decided that no one should suffer like that. And I wanted to pursue a career in healing. So at 18, I studied with a shaman. I ended up becoming certified in all these energy modalities. Then I got my massage license, my yoga certification, my degree in nutrition. I started working in clinical practice. I taught yoga all over Manhattan. And at that point, I was like a picture of health. I was a vegan. I was doing everything right not to be like my mother. And then at 30 years old, I got cancer. So that was my first hit of dealing with an illness. Thank God I ended up recovering. And 7 years later, I started to feel unwell all over again. I was having vertigo and digestive issues and trouble sleeping and a lot of strange things. And my assumption was, oh, I have a recurrence of cancer. And actually, it turned out to be Lyme disease. So, um, the Lyme disease is called the great imitator. So it can mimic all of these different types of syndromes, and it's not very clear cut or concise and what it ends up presenting as. And for me, the Lyme seemed similar to the thyroid cancer, except it was a lot worse.
A lot worse. In what way?
Worse. Well, the cancer, and this is a strange thing to say about cancer, but thank God I was able to cut it out. And once I had my surgery and went through radiation, I recovered. There wasn't there wasn't much any real residual issues. Maybe once a year I'd have to adjust my thyroid medicine, but for the most part, I was very strong. I was very resilient. I was super athletic after all of that happened. Lyme was a completely different story and what that did to my body. And it it's something that people don't understand because people had sympathy for me. You hear the word cancer, oh my God, cancer, that's terrible. It is terrible.
You get
But when you
meals
say you have,
brought to you and you get, people to
oh,
take you to treatments and all of that, right?
absolutely. I mean, in the beginning, I was so young. I was 30 when I first started having symptoms, and people thought I was just on. I was working in a medical practice that actually treats Lyme disease. I was working at the Morrison
Oh,
Center in New York City
oh my
as a
gosh.
nutritionist.
Yeah,
So, yeah, Jerry Simons, who's like the best, I was working
sure.
in the same practice as him. So I knew all about Lyme because I was working with the best Lyme practitioners. So it wasn't like I got into this industry because I got sick and then I turned in, working in this field. I was already in the field. Then when we found out that it was cancer, everyone was like, "Oh my God, how can I support you?" But later on, when it was Lyme, it was a completely different story, and the response from people and not really understanding and really grasping what an invisible illness looks like.
Absolutely, absolutely. And you say on your website something to the effect of, "I was the healthiest unhealthy person," something like
Yeah,
that.
I was the healthiest sick person you've ever met.
The healthiest
Yeah,
sick
meaning
person
that I
you've
was a
ever met.
vegan and I worked in the field and I like did everything right and I was this picture of health, like a biohacker's dream. Like I followed everything to a T and I'm like, this is ridiculous.
Which is
Yeah,
not uncommon for people that have gone through stress and trauma at an early age to just get into that defensive mode, and I'm sure it has to do with our fight or flight, and just really trying to just prevent any possible thing from happening like that again. And
right.
and so that I hear that a lot as well. And so, do you remember in your Lyme disease journey being bit by a tick, or do you feel like it was triggered by something else, or what's your own personal experience with that?
I feel like I used to spend a lot of time in the Hamptons and Long Island of New York on the weekends in the summer, and that's a place where ticks definitely hang out. And I remember going to the beach that weekend, and it was a private beach behind the house that I would stay at, and you walk through the brush from the trees and go onto the beach afterwards. And I never it's crazy. I worked in a practice that treated so much Lyme disease, yet until you have it, I would say you don't get it until you get it. Like I didn't ever think about it. I was like, oh, if I get a tick, I'll just pick it off me and throw it out. And I remember that weekend, and then like 2 days later, being in a department store And I started to like pass out, and I was like, that's weird. Is my blood sugar off? Like it was like a weird feeling, like just like everything, like I was very fainty. And then I just started having all of these strange neurological symptoms and a ton of vertigo. My vision started to change. And this all started coming on very quickly. And the first place I went was, oh my gosh, like I have the thyroid cancer is back. Like I need to go see
Sure.
an endocrinologist.
Right.
That was where my head went. It did not go to Lyme at all. Because no, I didn't get the bullseye rash. I didn't see a tick on me, nothing like that. And so I went the route. Met with two different endocrinologists. They're like, everything looks normal with your thyroid. So at this point, I'm not working at the Morrison Center, but I'm working at another clinical practice in Manhattan that also works with a lot of complex chronic conditions. And I remember telling the nurse practitioner, I was like, can we just like run a Lyme panel on me? Because like I did like Lyme panel. I also looked for reactivate, like a viral panel to see if was there Epstein-Barr, was there herpes. Like I was looking to see what could there possibly be
Anything.
that is throwing me off.
Right.
Right. And then we saw like the nurse and I are looking at my lab work because I was kind of fluent in reading other people's labs when I worked with them. So I was like, well, I have some bands, but not enough according to the CDC to be tested, can be considered positive for Lyme. So I was like, well, okay, maybe it's not Lyme. So it went untreated, and now months went by, and I'm getting worse and worse
Worse.
and worse. And I'm like, this is terrifying. I felt like I'm dying, and I'm pulling myself together to go to work with clients who were coming in with their own issues, even some people who have Lyme or, all these different things. And I'm like pulling it together, and I'm thinking I feel like death. So I said, I don't want to deal within my practice because sometimes you don't want to be the patient
Mm,
somewhere where you're actually working. So
right.
I went to a regular primary care physician. He was not functional, just took my insurance. And it wasn't like I did a test like IGeneX, some fancy Lyme test. And I didn't even ask him to test me for Lyme. I thought I ruled that out. I was like, maybe he's going to find something really bad. And then he called me and he said, you need to come in the office. And I'm like, oh my God,
Oh
like
boy.
I'm dying. Like I don't know what he found. And he said, it was a bioreference test, and which pretty much just is covered through insurance. And he said, you tested positive for Western blot. You have Lyme. You need to go see an infectious disease doctor. And I was like, as scared as I was, I was like at least relieved. I'm like, okay, thank God it's not anything worse. But I knew how bad Lyme was. So then it was like the pit of, oh yeah, but Lyme is bad. Like, and it's been a while, and I'm chronic by this point. So
That's right.
that's when the panic started, but also I, thank God, was in the position where I worked in a practice, and I also knew people from the previous practice I was in that knew this space very well. And believe it or not, through the therapies that I did a lot of ozone, I did hyperbaric oxygen, neurofeedback, biofeedback, IV therapy, peptides. I did all of this kind of stuff. And I actually, the first time around, I recovered. Like not fully, like no one ever fully has a full remission from Lyme, but I would say I got back to my 85, 90%. I was highly functional. I got back to exercising again. And this is 2018. And from like the end of 2018 to just about 2020, I am like back to my athletic self. And then COVID comes around, and um, it was during the Delta variant, and I had a very mild case, and I was like, no big deal. Like I got over thyroid cancer. I recovered pretty much from the Lyme. This
Mhm.
thing's not going to get me down. And the COVID was like Lyme on steroids, and it was the worst thing I ever experienced. And that was really when I truly like felt like I was in hell. And that that lasted a few years, and that is how I moved into the practices like Tai Chi and Qigong, which I can talk about.
Yes. I mean, I think everybody out there can relate to this. The,
Yeah.
the fact that COVID just sort of layers on And
Yep.
then you're really in a mess and you're not sure what you're supposed to be treating. Is it long COVID? Is it Lyme? Is it hormones? Is it the cancer
Yep.
residuals? And it must have been such a confusing time for you, which I know a lot of people can relate to, and sort of being able to understand what to tackle first in something that's just so complicated. And so anyway, tell us a little bit about how you made the turn from, being in COVID, having a lot of layers on your immune system, and then how you channeled that to what you do today, and how that made the turn.
Yeah. Well, I figured I would just retrace my steps and go back to doing the ozone and the IVs and the peptide therapy and my hyperbaric and the red light and all of those things. And it was like I might as well not have done anything and saved myself all of this time and money and stress because it just had no effect on me whatsoever. It was, and I even that didn't work. So then I started having a nurse come to my apartment to give me IV immunoglobulin every 3 weeks or so. And it was like a 5 hour treatment. And I would get the worst migraines after. I felt like I had meningitis. And I literally felt like, I mean, I'm sure your audience can relate. I felt like I wanted to die. And I've never been a depressed person. I've been very resilient. I've been through a ton of things in my life. And I was just like, if I don't have my health, then I I don't even understand the purpose anymore. It was affecting every area of my life, and I could barely work. I would go outside, and I felt like I was going to pass out because I had such terrible POTS, and I was just like, I did not know what to do anymore. And I tried the brain retraining programs, and they weren't helping me. And I also have a certification for working with clients for Lyme and long COVID. I was certified by Dr. Richard Horowitz, Dr. Neil Nathan on the mold. Like I knew all the functional protocols, and nothing was working. And I was so embarrassed as a practitioner, like, how come I know everything and this is not helping? So I'm a very spiritual person, and always pray. And I really went into prayer, and I was like pleading with God. I was like I need to get better because I don't know how I'm going to function. Like I need to get better. And also I went back to these things that I learned earlier in life with my mother, who was very into visualization. And also Joe Dispenza is a great resource for people. I'm sure your people listen to him already.
Love him. Love
So
him.
I just said, he's the best. And I said, you know what? I'm sick of doctors. I'm taking a break right now. I'm not going to do any of that. And I'm going into prayer, and I'm going into my visualizations. And in my visualization every day, I was very, very, very disciplined. I was always a yoga instructor. I had never practiced martial arts in my life, but I grew up with when my father was still in my life. We used to watch kung fu movies. That was like my entertainment as a kid. I was like totally obsessed with these like 1970, 1980 kung fu movies. So I memorized a lot of the moves. And when I was doing my visualization, I would imagine myself as this like martial artist doing all this kung fu. And it wasn't like I was like, okay, I'm getting out of bed and then I'm going to slowly heal. And no, it was just like watching myself going through the moves as this graceful martial artist. And then I would come out of it exhausted, and I'm like, okay, but how am I ever going to do those type of moves? Like I'm not strong enough. So I said there has to be a way, and maybe I can start with something like Tai Chi. I know it's a bunch of elder in my mind. I was like, I think Tai Chi is a bunch of elderly people in the park. That's what I used to live in Chinatown, New York City. I
Of
used to
course.
pass by, and I was like,
Yes.
okay,
And
whatever.
they're
That's
doing things in
that's
slow
all.
motion, and you're like,
Yeah. I'm like, if that's all I can do right now, then that's what I'm going to do. So I said, where can I find Tai Chi lessons? And I was too weak to go into a class with, a bunch of elderly women. Like I couldn't do it. So I asked this teacher, he was amazing. I feel like everything is divine. Like the way I found this person, he's a Buddhist. He went through chronic fatigue himself. He's been a martial artist for 50 years, Chinese background. Like he was my person. And we started working together several days a week. And he really helped me to build up my strength and energy. And he talked a lot about qi. And he was saying that the qi is the energy force that flows through you in traditional Chinese medicine. He's like, you have too much qi up here in your head. You need to bring it down to your feet. And it's very important because when you have migraines, when you have stomach aches, when you're overthinking, full of anxiety, the qi needs to come down. So we did a lot of rooting. When you think about grounding, yes, grounding in the park, we did that, but a lot of working like tapping the stomach or hitting the stomach. Also like really getting the feet grounded in the floor. We would open up the meridians by body tapping, like large intestine, or working on the lungs and cupping, or working on the anxiety points, like right here, like working on this. And I started to really start to regain strength, and not it didn't even take that much time. I would say within like 3 months, I was like, wow, like I am really like I don't feel like I have chronic fatigue. This is so bizarre. Like I'm doing these simple things. Like I don't even understand how is this working so well. About 6 months into practicing the Tai Chi and Qigong, I'm getting stronger. My balance is coming back. I'm a former yoga teacher. So, it was like I'm getting back in my body. I'm feeling good about it. And I told him how I did this visualization of doing Kung Fu. And he said to me, you can practice a form called Wing Chun. And Wing Chun Kung Fu is actually what Bruce Lee is known for. But there are aspects to it that are very specific to working on neuroplasticity and the brain, the way you move with your partner. There's exercises called Chi Sao. And so I actually, 6 months after I was chronically fatigued, had POTS. Now I no longer have chronic fatigue. My POTS is gone. And now I show up at a studio in New York City, a Kung Fu studio for Wing Chun. And I became a student. And I remember telling the teacher, I had this Lyme disease and long COVID and I may pass out. And he doesn't know from any of this. And I just did it. And it built me up so much. The Tai Chi, the Qigong, the Wing Chun Kung Fu. And now my whole life has been martial arts these past 2 years. And it saved my life.
Wow. I
Yeah,
believe it.
and I did
And
not go
this
to a
is
doctor for a year.
no way. I am
No doctor.
in complete wonderment because I'm just now getting into the energy fields of healing and learning about that, and I'm really into it. Whether it's light
Mm.
energy or just sound energy or this kind of movement energy, it's wonderful. Would you consider the two practices of being more of a so because I want to make sure that everybody out there understands this is more, would you consider it more of an energy practice or more of a physical biological practice?
It's a combination of both. Tai Chi and Qigong work more on energy, moving the Qi throughout the meridians in your body. It's internal, that's considered internal martial arts. So the internal is more energetic. The Wing Chun Kung Fu is more external, but it's a very good practice for people with Lyme disease. You do not have to burn out. I was very lucky that I started with Tai Chi and Qigong, and I would recommend that for anyone who would be interested in potentially learning Kung Fu. I know it sounds so crazy. You're like, you feel sick and you're like,
Like,
wait, how am I jumping Kung Fu? It sounds like the stupidest thing, like it's like the opposite sides of the spectrum. But my teacher said, really make sure you stay very focused with your breathing. Use your Tai Chi breathing. Stay rooted. Move slowly with intention, the way you move. And I am so focused in my practice. And so when I do Kung Fu, even the Wing Chun, like I think our minds, because we are so fixated on our illness, that's what happens when you're chronically ill. We're constantly searching or thinking about it, and healing becomes such a full-time job. In martial arts, there has been no place that I have been so present that I am able to start rewiring my brain to make it work. And I've done the brain retraining systems, and I know like the DNRS or the Gupta system or Primal Trust. Some people love them. I'm not saying don't do them, but for me personally, it didn't work. My body had to embody this actually myself. It's also like even some of the energy stuff, like yes, red light therapy or light therapy, all of these things, but they're being done to you. They're good complements,
mhm.
but it's not the same as creating and moving your own chi. Even acupuncture is great, but someone's still needling you. To learn how to do it on your own. And also, it makes you less panicked because once you have these skills, if you start to have a flare or you're feeling off or feeling anxious or unstable, you automatically know like, oh, I need to do this practice right now. I don't need to go run to the next doctor or naturopath or have my next session. You actually have some control over your body. And I think that's really something that all of us would benefit from.
And it's a mindset also, learning how to go from what we've all been trained to do.
Yeah.
And probably you had a little bit more insight as a little girl just because of your mother. But if the normal person doesn't isn't raised with that, we're looking toward
Yeah.
Western medicine. We're looking toward a doctor to fix it for us. And it takes a real dedication to exploring the fact that your medicine can oftentimes be found within your own body. And I just I just want to invite everybody out there who thinks this sounds a little woo-woo or kind of crazy to just listen a little bit more and to expand your mind and to actually be open to different types of healing. I'd like to know the basic differences between Tai Chi and Qigong and the Kung Fu.
So Tai
I mean,
Chi, yeah. So Tai Chi is more of a martial form. Like martial means war. So it's kind of like it's actually Tai Chi was something that was used as combat back in centuries ago. It wasn't necessarily like just a slow form. The forms are actually fighting forms. They're just done in slow motion, but they're still moving the chi, but it is more of a it's more of a martial form. Qigong is more working with the qi throughout your body and really using your mind and focusing on moving it through the meridians, but you're doing different movements. So you're combining breath. You could be using sound. One of the things that I do is 5 element Qigong, where you're working on, let's say you're having issues with a lot of fear and anxiety, which is like everybody. So that has to do with the stomach and spleen. And you might do a lot of intestinal exercises. So working on the intestines, like I'm breathing in, you can't see it right now, but I'm doing these intestine exercises or hitting on the stomach or smacking the stomach. You might have to do, I started doing 100 of these a day, and now sometimes I'll go up to 1,000. I'll break it up through certain throughout the day, but I will be barefoot outside and working on just hitting my stomach, and that's grounding. And if you have vertigo or you're feeling like if you have POTS or anything like that, this is something that will really help to stabilize you. And also it's great for fatigue. If you're, let's say, working on the kidneys, there's exercises you can do to strengthen your back, and you're stretching out because the kidneys and the adrenals, the lower back, but that has to do with fear. So you're moving those organs. And also the sound that has to do with the different energy centers. Also, it's interesting, like chanting. There's so much similarity between Ayurvedic systems and traditional Chinese medicine. One is prana, the other is chi. But when you think of Ayurveda or yoga, you're chanting, but you're also activating the vagus nerve when you're doing that, and when you're making the sounds in qigong as well, you're activating the vagus nerve. So, but there's even a lot of tapping. There's even like just stuff like and you're kind of like lightly bouncing and you're like, and you're just letting stuff out of your head. And this is really good for like just overthinking. If I can't sleep at night, Qigong. So your two toes tapping like that, sitting like that for 20 minutes can help you fall asleep at night because it's bringing the Qi down. So these are Qigong practices. And even people who are in bed or they're not very mobile. I've worked with people who have Parkinson's. I'm not an instructor, but I have like one certification of instruction, but it's more like my clients that are my nutrition clients, but who have chronic illness, I will start sharing these exercises with them because I feel like it's so critical. And it doesn't matter if you have Lyme, it doesn't matter if you have long COVID, it doesn't matter if you have hormonal issues, if you have chronic fatigue, or if you have thyroid disease. Doesn't matter if it's bacterial or it's viral. You have a dysregulation of the autonomic nervous system across the board. So these exercises will work for any of these people, and they're not invasive. So sometimes I don't even need to know what you have. It really helps to start doing these practices because they will help to downregulate the nervous system.
That's so amazing. I love it. You know, I love it the most because a lot of our followers are in bed and they're miserable and they can't get out of bed. They can barely get to the shower. I remember in my darkest days, I was, it was like I would spend hours thinking about the journey from my bed to the shower and then how I was going to, sort of dry my hair. I mean, simple things like that just wasn't happening for me. I had no strength. And so I think for obviously it works for people that are experiencing better health. But I'm talking about the people in the acute stage. That this would be a wonderful practice because you can basically do it in your pajamas. You could probably do it from your bedroom. And
From
with
your bed,
as long
sitting
as you
down.
learn just a few basic practices and basic exercises or whatever they're called, then you can
Yeah.
get on your way and at least have that. And you know what? That is empowering for our community because doing something about it is step number one. And if you feel like you're a victim and you can't do anything about it, you're not going to go very far. But if you feel as
Right.
though, hey, I could probably do this for 5 minutes, and then you start seeing how good you feel after, that's incredible. And I just am so excited for our community to learn more about this. About how much, let's just say somebody's in that acute state, about how, what do you recommend about how often somebody should practice to see benefits?
Right. I mean, right when you get up in the morning, if you can do at least 10 minutes of body tapping, and that's something that I do have some videos on, but even if you weren't watching my videos, I'm with my teacher doing it, but even if you just Googled body tapping on YouTube and just started to wake up the body, that will really help get you rooted. And I know that a lot of people are kind of nervous, especially with Lyme, to go out in the barefoot outside. That's maybe a little scary. I made a giant grounding mat. I had one made for me. That's like it's like almost the size of like one of the bedrooms where I am. Like, and I stand on my grounding mat and I do all my Tai Chi and Qigong on there. And that's like how I wake up in the morning. Because if you wake up and you're like, oh, let me just go check my phone and my email and do it. No, no, no. Like I get up, I pray, and then I have some affirming statements that I say, and then I get right into doing this practice. I think it's well, I also walk my dog. So yeah, I do get my light in the eyes and do all of that too. But I do move 10 minutes, at least 10 minutes in the morning. It's really good. And then in the middle of the day as a break, I'm like always stopping and pausing and just kind of like just tapping. I'm constantly waking up the body, hitting and tapping and this kind of stuff like all the time, just like it's like a shower for my body just to move all the energy because I'm like, okay, it's enough. And it refreshes you. So it's really important.
And then now that you're an expert, how often do you practice and what does your practice look like?
So I would say I do in the morning about 20 minutes between Tai Chi and Qigong. I do this series of Tai Chi, which is it's a sequence 24 posture. I do that, and then a little bit of tapping Qigong, and then later on in the day, I would say most days I go to Kung Fu. So I do practice Kung Fu about 5 days a week. So
Mhm.
that is my, I mean, I wasn't always like this. I know it sounds, I mean, I was somebody who could barely walk around the block because I was so dizzy and my POTS was so bad that I couldn't do that. But now martial arts has become a way of life. So yeah, I Tai Chi Qigong every single day. I don't miss a day. And then Kung Fu 4 to 5 days a week.
And if someone wants to begin this practice and take baby steps, what classes or what would you recommend? Do you recommend them finding somebody in their community to sort of teach them the basics?
Yeah.
Are there YouTube? I know that you also offer some things. So tell us a little bit about what you offer as well.
So I do have some videos on my website with my teacher. Um, and my website is soulhakker.com, SOULHAKKER.com. those are, they're definitely, it's a good start for people who want to learn, like, what does this look like? And it's $10 a month and the first month is free. Like, I wanted to make it very accessible when we're spending so much money as people who have had Lyme and have, but that's a good way to just get a sense of what that looks like. But having a teacher is always really the best because it's someone who really understands your body and is making sure you're doing things correctly. And not to say that doing all of this is a substitution for eating well and working on your gut and having a good diet and having good thoughts. You have to mind your thoughts too and be very conscious of that. It's not just one thing, but these practices combined with, I'm sure most of the people that you are part of your audience are already following a low histamine diet or have mast cell activation, or they're working on their gut and they're doing the right things. So if you're already doing that, this is really the piece that I feel like is very valuable.
I agree. I agree. Are there any mistakes that newcomers can fall victim to, or are there things that you want to just clarify that people don't do or should look out for?
With Tai Chi and Qigong,
Yeah.
or I mean, you're not going to hurt yourself. It's something that you don't. The issue is a lot of people don't start because they feel like, oh, my form's not going to be good and it's embarrassing and it doesn't matter. Anything that we do that's new feels a little bit awkward. I mean, I was always a yoga person. So when I started and I felt like my form wasn't so great, I felt a little spastic when I started Tai Chi. And it's still not perfect, but it doesn't even matter because I'm getting the benefit of it because I'm so present when I do it. So it doesn't have to look beautiful. Don't get caught up with looking a certain way. Just focus on doing it in a way where you're connecting your mind, your body, your breath, you're present. And that's really the most important part. And then you're going to get value from it.
That's wonderful. I actually can't wait to start myself. I had my very first well, it was Qigong actually, and which is I think the
Well,
possibly
Qigong, I mean, some people say it Qigong, so it was Qigong. So
I
yeah,
think
this is
it's kind of the Korean version or something. There's some subtle difference, whatever. But I did one of those sessions recently with my friend Nicole, and I just loved it. I mean, I think I was completely transported to a different place. I felt more vibrant. I felt like I had just had a massage. I felt like my energy is constantly between my shoulders and the top of my head. And that's just where I live. And unfortunately, it's where I live at 3 a.m., from 3 a.m. to 5 a.m. on most days. So to have something, and sometimes I will just slow my breathing, but to take it to the next level and really learn how to control those ruminating thoughts, which is probably, a lot of people would say the type A personality will tend to get sick and tend to get these types of diseases and chronic illness because we just don't know how to get out of here.
right. There's
Yeah,
an expression that they also say is like you should have cool head, warm belly. So it's like you shouldn't have so much chi here. Make sure you keep bringing it down. So that's what we need to focus on, especially for us overthinkers, which is most of us.
exactly. So, in closing, can you just tell everybody sort of your final thoughts for everybody out there that are in the shoes that you were in not too long ago? And also, after that, let us know where we can get in touch with you and what types of things you offer on your website.
You have more power than you think, and that is that what everyone should leave with that, knowing that it's if you have a good practitioner that you're looking forward to seeing, there's nothing wrong with that. I've worked in clinics my whole career, but our bodies are meant to heal, and there are so many things we can do on our own. So go ahead and try. Don't knock it just because it's not something you're not familiar with. If it really did work for me, and everybody's different, but I'm telling you that I urge you just to try it, because if there's even a small percentage that this can change your life, then why not? And there's no downside. And to reach me, my website is soulhakker.com, SOULHAKKER.com. And on Instagram, I'm the Soul Hakker with 2 Ks.
And in terms of what they can do with you, do you do any virtual classes or instructions or anything like that? What do you primarily do at Soul Hacker?
So right now, when I do see my clients, a lot of people still come to me for nutrition, because that's my profession. So I do that, but we do also incorporate that, and I can also do that over a Zoom session too, where I'll start getting to people to move while we're working together. So it really depends. Some people just really want to work on their diet or their supplements, but other people who want to do this kind of movement, it can be done virtually. And I'm down in Miami for the winter, and I've decided that everyone who knows me, who I've started to work with, said you have to do classes. So I decided I'm going to do a sunset beach class down in Miami once a week. So I'm super excited.
Fantastic, fantastic. That's wonderful.
Yeah.
Well, thank you for letting us know where to get in touch with you. Thank you for sharing your story and your journey. And I know this is going to change people's way of thinking about their own medicine and how to channel that in terms of just completing their health. And it's something that I think is great because you can do it at any point in your journey. You can do it when you're in
Yes.
bed. You can do it when you're feeling even a little bit better and able to take on a little bit more. And also at the end, you can use it as a preventative, as you do every single day, Danielle. So thank you so much for your
Definitely.
time.
Thank you.
I feel like I learned so much. Thank you so much. And I hope you come back.
Thank you so much.
Thank you for listening to this episode of the Lyme Time Podcast. If you like what you heard, please subscribe on your favorite platform to be notified of new episodes. Remember, this is not intended to be medical advice. Take your findings to your provider to see if something is right for you. No two bodies heal the same, and your doctor knows you and your labs best. You can find out more about the Tick Chicks at thetickchicks.com, and if you subscribe there, you'll be notified of upcoming events like the in-person Losing Lyme retreat that I host. I also have shopping pages dedicated to helping your at-home symptom relief, as well as a private support group. Join the Tick Chicks tribe on Instagram, YouTube, Meta, TikTok, Pinterest, and X. You are not alone.